Today is the day of Holy Week that is often called Holy Wednesday, or in a much more fun version of it, it's called Spy Wednesday, which sounds like a much more fun name than it is in reality. It's not like some James Bond type of stuff happening in the Bible. This is the day that Judas agrees to hand Jesus over to betray him for 30 pieces of silver. And we get this from the book of Matthew, and in chapter 26, starting at verse 14, it says this: Then one of the 12, the one called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and asked, "What are you willing to give me if I deliver him over to you?" So they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver. From then on, Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over. You know, what's interesting about those verses is they come before the Last Supper that Jesus has with his 12 closest friends and other disciples who were there as well. And Judas acts surprised when Jesus says, "One of you is going to betray me," even though he'd already agreed to betray Jesus. Now, we clearly see Judas as this bad guy. In fact, in later, Renaissance art, he's in the worst layer of hell with the betrayers of Julius Caesar. There's 3 bad guys in the worst layer of hell. He's the bad guy in the history of the world, according to this work of art. And so, we think of him in this way as this exceptionally evil person, but I think he might be more relatable than we want to admit. Judas was probably part of this political faction of Jews that were known as Zealots. And Zealots were these people who had plans essentially for violent overthrow of Roman rule and oppression in the land of Israel and Judah. And they were looking for a Messiah like many different factions of Jewish people at the time, but their vision of the Messiah was somebody who was coming to establish the kingdom of God through the sword, through bloody, violent revolution. And it probably became clear at this point to Judas that that was not on the agenda for Jesus, that he was not going to kill for the Lord, but instead he was going to die for us. And the other thing that we know about Judas from the Gospels is that he was greedy. He was known to take money from the shared resources that they had as they were out doing ministry. But I don't think greed can really fully sum up what was going on with Judas, because it says 30 pieces of silver, basically a month's wages. And I can't imagine being so greedy that I would sell out one of my best friends, give their lives away for 1 month's wages. I don't know what would be enough, but that doesn't seem like enough. But Judas is probably responding to the fact that, hey, I've wasted all this time following this guy, and now he's not going to do the thing that I think he should do. He's not going to be the kind of king that I think he should be and overthrow these Romans. And so I better get something out of this. And I think that's what was going on with Judas. And while this seems very diabolical and very evil, there's something actually sadly relatable about this. We want God to serve our agenda. We want God to behave in the ways that we think he should behave. We want to create God in our own image. And when Jesus came and he didn't meet the expectations, instead of opening and expanding his mind that maybe he knows something I don't know, maybe there's actually a better way than my way, instead, Judas just said, well, then I have no use for you if you're not going to do the thing that I want you to do. And sadly, this is a very human thing. This is often what we want. We want it to do it our way, and we want God to bless our way instead of expanding our minds and saying, maybe there is a better way than my way. Maybe God sees a picture that I don't see. Maybe goodness according to Jesus is different than goodness according to me. And so as we continue this march toward the cross throughout Holy Week, this is a good time to humble ourselves, to do what Judas couldn't do, and to see Jesus as he really is, not who I want him to be. To see a Jesus who actually dies for his enemies instead of kills mine, right? or fights on my behalf, or whatever it is we look for him to do. And so I want to take a moment right now and just give some time on this video for us to just be in silence. This is a time for us to humble our own hearts, to reflect and to say, what are the ways that I'm trying to wrestle God, wrestle with God and to get him to do what I want to do? And if there are ways in my life that I'm not submitting to him because of my own agenda or my own sense of need for control of my life, spend some time alone with God and just submit to him. Just trust that his ways are better than my ways, and just submit these things to him. Let's take some time to do that right now.